Hey guys, the trade period has now finished, or it did finish the other day, but I'm gonna go through every trade that happened in the whole trade period, so let's have a look at least 30 plus trades. Okay, so the first player to be traded was Jack Silvagni, and that was actually 1 week ago on Friday when the free agency kicked off. He left Carlton to join St Kilda, and I'm not really going to talk too much about the trades that are not with North Melbourne, but I think this one's good. Let me know what you guys think after this video, Saints fans. I want to know how you guys feel about getting all these players. The next big trade to talk about is James Worpel going from Hawthorn to Geelong. It's a really interesting move because Worpel has been a key player for the Hawks for a while, and now he'll be joining a strong Cats midfield. Geelong fans, how do you feel about picking up Worpel? And Hawks fans, are you happy with what you got in return? The next big trade to talk about is Tom De Koning going from Carlton to St Kilda. This is a pretty big move because De Koning has been seen as one of the Blues' most exciting young ruck forwards, and now he'll be joining a Saints side that's been looking to strengthen their tall stocks. St Kilda fans, how do you feel about bringing in De Koning? And Blues fans, are you happy with what you got back in the trade? The next big trade to talk about is Sam Draper moving from Essendon to Brisbane. This one's really interesting because Draper has been a big personality and key ruckman for the Bombers, and now he's heading up north to join a strong Lions lineup. Brisbane fans, are you pumped to have Draper in your side? And Essendon fans, are you satisfied with what you got in return for him? The next big trade to talk about is Jacob Ware going from the Giants to Port Adelaide. It's an interesting move because Ware has shown some real promise down back for GWS, and now he'll get a fresh start at the Power, who are looking to bolster their defensive depth. Port fans, are you happy with this pickup? And Giants fans, what do you think about letting Ware go? The next big trade to talk about is Charlie Spargo heading from Melbourne to North Melbourne. This is a smart move for the Roos. Spargo brings great forward pressure, footy smarts, and experience from a successful D side. He'll add some real spark around goals and help guide North's younger forwards. North fans, are you happy with this pickup? And D's fans, are you sad to see him go? The next trade to mention is Liam Reedy going from Fremantle to Carlton. Not a North move, but still worth noting. Reedy's a young ruck with good potential who'll give the Blues some extra depth. Interesting to see how he develops at his new club. The next trade to mention is Malcolm Roses Jr. heading from Gold Coast to Sydney. Not a North move, but still interesting. Roses brings speed, energy, and goal sense to the Swans forward line. Could be a handy pickup for them heading into next season. The next trade to mention is Judd McVee going from Melbourne to Fremantle. Not a North move, but still a solid one. McVee's a reliable young defender who uses the ball well and reads the play nicely. He should fit in well with Freo's backline setup. The next trade to mention is Sam Flanders going from Gold Coast to St Kilda. Not a North move, but definitely a good pickup for the Saints. Flanders had a breakout year and brings real midfield power and class. He should slot nicely into their on-ball rotation. The next trade to mention is Oscar Allen going from West Coast to Brisbane. Not a North move, but still a huge story. Allen was West Coast's co-captain and a key forward, and he'll bring strength and experience to the Lions lineup. Definitely a big addition for Brisbane and a major loss for the Eagles. The next trade to mention is Max Heath moving from St Kilda to Melbourne. Not a North move, but still interesting. Heath adds young key position depth for the Demons and could develop into a reliable option in their tall stocks. A smart pickup for Melbourne's future. The next trade to mention is Campbell Chesser going from West Coast to Carlton. Not a North move, but still worth noting. Chesser adds young tall depth for the Blues and could develop into a key part of their future lineup. The next trade to mention is Liam Ryan moving from West Coast to St Kilda. Not a North move, but still a big one. Ryan brings pace, skill, and experience to the Saints' backline, giving them more versatility and firepower off halfback. The next trade to mention is Brody Mihocek moving from Collingwood to Melbourne. Not a North move, but still a notable one. Mihocek brings experience, marking ability, and goal sense to the Demons' forward line, adding another option for their attack. Finally, now we have a massive trade with 3 clubs this time, so let's go through it club by club. The next trade to mention is Connor Durden moving from Carlton to Port Adelaide. Port also received a 2026 second-round pick in the deal. Durden adds depth and versatility to the Powers lineup, giving them more options moving forward. Not a North move, but a smart pickup for Port. The next trade to mention is Gold Coast receiving pick 29 from Port Adelaide. This gives the Suns another early pick to bolster their list and invest in their future talent. Not a North move, but an important list-building moment for Gold Coast. The next trade to mention is Carlton receiving pick 67 from Port Adelaide, along with Ben Ainsworth from Gold Coast. This gives the Blues a mix of draft potential and experienced talent to boost their list. Not a North move, but a handy addition for Carlton. Another trade to mention is Braden Fiorini heading from Gold Coast to Essendon. Fiorini's been a consistent performer for the Suns, and this move gives the Bombers another solid midfield option heading into next season. This one definitely stands out as a smart pickup for Essendon. Bombers fans, how do you feel about getting Fiorini? And Suns fans, are you happy with the move? Let me know your thoughts in the comments after the video. Another trade to talk about is Connor Budarick going from Gold Coast to the Western Bulldogs. Budarick's a tough and reliable player who's shown plenty of potential at the Suns, and the move to the Dogs could give him a fresh start in a side that's looking to strengthen its backline. Another trade to talk about is Ollie Florent going from Sydney to Carlton. Florent's been a consistent and versatile player for the Swans, and his move to the Blues adds more speed and class to their midfield and wing options. It's a solid pickup for Carlton and an interesting change for Sydney as they look to refresh their lineup. Another trade to talk about is Chankwoth Jiath going from Hawthorn to Melbourne. Jiath is an exciting and athletic defender who brings plenty of run and flair off halfback, and his move to the Demons adds even more speed and rebound to their backline. It's a big change for Hawthorn, losing such a dynamic player, but a great addition for Melbourne as they look to strengthen their defence. Another trade to talk about is Jace Serong going from Hawthorn to Sydney. Serong's a young and developing player with plenty of potential, and this move to the Swans could give him more opportunities to establish himself at AFL level. It's a smart pickup for Sydney as they continue to build depth, and Hawthorn will be hoping their return helps them keep shaping their young list. Another trade to talk about is Finbar Maley going from North Melbourne to Adelaide. Maley's a developing tall with strong athleticism and good versatility, and this move gives him a fresh opportunity to really push for senior selection at the Crows. He's shown glimpses of real talent, and Adelaide might be the perfect place for him to take the next step in his career. I honestly don't know why North decided to let him go. He was a good player with plenty of potential and still had a lot to offer. Sometimes these trades don't make much sense from a fan's point of view, but hopefully Maley makes the most of it and proves what he's capable of in Adelaide colours. Another trade to talk about is Jamara Ugelhagen going from the Bulldogs to the Suns. This is a huge move. Jamara was a former #1 pick and has shown how dangerous he can be up forward. Gold Coast adding him gives their attack even more firepower and changes their forward setup in a big way. Another trade to talk about is Jack Buller going from Sydney to Collingwood. Buller is a key forward who showed promise with the Swans, and moving to the Pies gives him a fresh chance to break into a strong forward line and make an impact at AFL level. Another trade to talk about is Patrick Rechko going from Geelong to Richmond. Rechko is a developing player with good potential, and the move to the Tigers gives him a new opportunity to push for senior games and continue his growth in a different system. Another huge trade to talk about is Christian Petrarca going from Melbourne to Gold Coast. Petrarca is a superstar and one of the best players in the competition, so this move completely changes the Suns' midfield and forward mix. Bringing in a player of his level is massive for Gold Coast and a huge loss for the D's. Another big trade to talk about is Jack Steele going from Street Kilda to Melbourne. Steele has been one of the Saints' best and most reliable midfielders for years, and the Demons bringing him in gives them an experienced, tough-on baller who can win the footy and lead by example. Huge pickup for Melbourne and a big loss for the Saints. Another major trade to talk about is Clayton Oliver going from Melbourne to GWS. Oliver has been one of the best inside midfielders in the league for years, and moving to the Giants gives them a massive boost around the contest. It's a huge change for Melbourne to lose a player of his caliber, and a massive win for GWS as they strengthen their midfield even more. Another big trade to talk about is Charlie Curnow going from Carlton to Sydney. Curnow is one of the league's elite key forwards, and moving to the Swans gives them a massive boost in their forward line. It's a huge loss for Carlton, but Sydney now adds a dominant marking target who can change games and give them a real focal point up forward. Alright guys, it has been an action-packed trade period. Comment down below what your favourite trade this year was. And hope you all enjoyed this video, and I will see you all later.